Something I've realised lately is young men feel ostracised. They feel a bit out of place, out of balance, and they're not really sure where they lie with a lot of stuff. Young men aren't really sure how to evolve, and what I mean by that is we're not really taught how to become a man by any real sources. So that's why people look to false idols, and unfortunately, it tends to backfire because their messages are for their own benefit and not really helpful to the majority of young men. The reality is, a lot of young men are lost and unfortunately very lonely, and they also feel extremely oppressed. Now, this isn't any sort of pity to men, but I think this is really a phenomena that we're seeing a lot nowadays. In the past, women felt extremely oppressed, and quite rightly so. You know, they weren't even allowed to vote, and there's many other examples of them feeling oppressed, and that's why feminism has become such a big movement. However, now I think what we're seeing is because of the rise of feminism, it has sort of counteracted men to feel like they can't really express themselves in the way they want to because it's so conditioned in our society that if we say something wrong or out of place, then we might get ostracized for that. And unfortunately, that is very common. So we have to find a way of encouraging more individualism. I too often see people just sort of living day by day as a sheep. And I know that's a maybe abhorrent expression, but I think it's absolutely true. We have become too sheep like, and we have no sort of encouragement for individualism. Why is there no movement for that? Well, because I think people have this fear that they might be an outcast. And I can see it, often in group environments, people are sort of playing up to who they think is the top of this hierarchy. You see it. If you work in a pretty 9 to 5 corporate job, it's obvious. People have more respect for people that are higher up because if they seek their approval, then they're more likely to go up in the ladder. It's not really a great way of living, though, is it? Because what you do then is, whilst you're on this constant process of seeking approval from people you deem higher up, better than you, you're basically disqualifying yourself. You're basically saying, I'm not that good enough, so I have to seek approval from people that I believe are higher up from me. And what you're doing then is placing more power to them rather than yourself. I think individuality is really the key to finding your own sense of fulfillment, feeling completely relaxed and happy within yourself. And I do truly believe that because once you find your own confidence, your own conviction, life just seems to sort of feel a lot freer and more easy, and things just don't affect you because you have this self-confidence from within that you don't feel out of touch. You don't feel these kind of fears because we are mostly controlled by fear. And a lot of those fears do rely upon tribalism and falling into groups. And if you become an outcast, you might be ostracized. And that's a fear of being alone, that's a fear of ridicule. So people go against that. But by them going against it, they are basically fighting a losing battle, because that is a battle you don't want to even enter. And this is why a lot of leaders, they, for example, your Marcus Aurelius's, a lot of them promote the idea of choosing your battles. Not every battle there is to be fought. And that is a battle you don't want to fight, because as soon as you enter that battle, you're fighting a losing battle. So what you want to do instead is not enter the battle, and instead focus on yourself, your own individuality, you controlling your own mind, your thoughts, your feelings, and within that, that is where you find your own authenticity. And authenticity is infectious. People can't help but feel rubbed up the right way when someone is authentic. For me, I don't know about you, but I can tell in a heartbeat when someone's being inauthentic. It's obvious, the fake laughing, the fake smiling, this constant portrayal that they are this super happy person, super positive person. And this is why there is a thing called toxic positivity, because I remember my mum telling me this actually a few years ago. And I was like, how can you be toxic and positive? How can both of them go? But basically what she was saying was, a lot of people will try and portray to be positive. That's what I mean. So the positive isn't actually coming from a genuine place. It's coming from a self-beneficial place, where they're basically only in it for themselves, and they don't care. But they're acting like they do. That it's all an act. It's all fugazi. You know what fugazi is? So I guess this is one of the things that is really, well, it's frustrating to me anyway. Hence, I'm making a video on it. But there needs to be more emphasis on individuality. Like, why is there not a movement for that? When do you ever see a movement for individuality? It's always we have to sort of form ourselves into something, whether it's a workplace. The sense I get in a workplace where I work right now is that you have to sort of mold into an acceptable and appropriate person that isn't too brash and doesn't say really opinionated things. And I guess that's what I've come to accept. Sure, I'm still there because I need a cash flow and I'm saving up for going to Australia. So that's my reason for being there. But it's unfortunate, and I don't know what the best way of going around this is, but I guess that's why a lot of people come to YouTube, because they feel they can relate to people a lot more on there, whereas in real life, yeah, you can find people you can relate to, but it's almost like there's always a hidden fear of fully saying exactly what you think or you feel, because, yeah, the fear of maybe being ostracized or ridiculed is always going to keep you back from that. Whereas when you come onto YouTube or TikTok, you find more relatable people that are actually saying what they think and feel, and that is super relatable and super powerful. And I guess it keeps you reminded that you can find your own self. You can find the way that you actually want to be. And I feel that is so important to live in life. So, I might just be rambling, but I genuinely do feel there should be so much more importance on individuality. But make of that of what you will. So, yeah, I'm going to leave the video on that note. Thanks for watching. Appreciate if you could up my subscribers to about 1 million, and drop loads of respect comments and likes. That'd be great. So I'll leave you there. Thank you very much for watching, and hasta luego.